All right, guys, I get a lot of questions on how to rig for lake trout. So I figured I would do a quick little video on things that I do and use for vertical jigging lake trout. Now, we vertical jig lake trout here in Alaska. I don't know about we, but me, vertical jig lake trout here in Alaska in pretty shallow water. By pretty shallow, I mean anywhere from 9 to 50 feet. So we're running 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce at the very heaviest 1 ounce jigs, whether that's a bucktail or tube jig or a swim bait. And two of my favorite setups here, just getting the boat ready, so I'm sitting in the driveway. Two of my favorite setups here are 7-foot, one piece. This is a LMX blank, North Fork blank. I can show it to you here. 10 to 17, fast action, right? You want it stiff. You want to be able to feel that lake trout swim up to it and basically lick that jig in shallow water. I run braided line, 30 pound braid. These rods here are made by Susitna Rod Company. My buddy Ben, I can post a link to his stuff. He builds unbelievable jig rods, unbelievable any rod. 30 pound braid, and then depending on the depth of water, I run a double uni knot or an Alberto knot right to 20 pound fluorocarbon. 6 to 9 feet of fluorocarbon and tied to the jig. Now, you do have to worry about line twist. It is a management issue. So when you look about line twist, a lot of guys will run a barrel swivel right here at the braid to fluorocarbon leader. That's a great idea. Just got to be aware of that as it goes to the eyelets. And on these Susitna rods, these custom rods, he uses these Fuji titaniums, and they're you don't want to be reeling a barrel swivel into those, so something to be aware of. I have built my own swivels that are split ring to barrel swivel. I've used those. Fish don't seem to mind them. If you're not a swivel guy, if you're kind of minimalist as far as what's on your line, tie right to your tube jig. It doesn't really necessarily matter what kind of tube. I like to go small, 4 to 6 inch. There's a million tubes out there. Natural colors is kind of what I like to go to. Havoc makes some great tubes. Let me see if I can kind of just find a natural color one in here. Here's a decent go-to little 4-inch tube right here. Little split tail. So that's kind of what I run in my tubes. Again, you don't want to overthink it. When you're vertical jigging, you search to find fish, and when you're on those fish, you put the bucktail or tube, whatever you are looking to fish, in front of its face. And if that fish doesn't bite, I leave it and I move on to the next fish. Again, there's a million ways to catch lake trout. I get asked a lot on what kind of setups I use. I kind of run minimalistic stuff. I have 6 or 7 rods rigged up, and I move a lot, and I run either drift or off spot lock. The other thing I do a lot is twitching swim baits. Again, this is an LMX North Fork composite built by Susitna Rods. This is a 7-foot medium heavy fast. It's a little bit better for lifting that tube out of the bait or the swim bait lifting the tube out of the weeds or the swim bait out of the weeds. Cast them out and twitch them in. Typically those lake trout, especially when the water's cold, like to move a little bit shallower so you can kind of target a lot of those fish. Again, this is built by Susitna Rods. My buddy Ben builds unbelievable rods. This is a 7.5 footer, same setup. This is a 7-footer, a little bit more for vertical jig presentation. And yeah, lots of ways to do it. That's kind of how I do it. I'm looking forward to the ice to leave the lakes to get the boats out. Thanks, guys.